Yeah.
Yo, so I want to start here. I want to say this. So last week, like I said, me and my boy Ted Wynn, we talked about your conversation around Kamala Harris's speech, where she said, "I told you so" when she was speaking before black women, and so I we talked about it, posted on the good YouTube, got a little bit of traffic, and you hit me up and you said,
Yeah.
"Yo, love your show," and then we began texting and you said, "Yo, let's go on each other's show. Let's talk." And here's what I love about that, Van, is that I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I published my first article like 20 years ago. I've been doing this forever, and so many people in media, they take things so personal and they get so angry and they turn it into a thing. And what I
Mm.
loved is that reasonable people can disagree, and in this time span, you and I, we may see some things differently, but we believe in freedom and liberation for black people. We don't want anybody to be starving. We want people to be okay. So I just really valued that you reached out to me and said, "Yo, I love your show. Let's talk." I thought it was great that we could dialogue like that, man to man. So I just wanted to say, there's a lot of people, I've seen it, would not do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, when we were talking, I do like the show and love the show, and I've been following your work for a long time, know who you are. And um once again, it's kind of like I don't you can't take any of that stuff personally, because really what you're trying to do in a situation like that is or when you're talking is get to what you think the best strategy for it is, so that people have the things that they need for their lives. So if you center yourself in it, or how people look at you, or what people might be saying about you, it never gets to them. And that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. So I appreciate that. So let's talk about it. So Kamala Harris was speaking before black women, and there was someone in the audience that I think said, "I told you so," and Kamala Harris said, "I didn't want to say that. I told you so." And let's play a brief part of the speech that she was giving.
Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so. I swore I wasn't going to say that. But I'll say this. Fear has a way of being contagious. Okay? When one person has fear, it has a way of spreading to those around them and spreading. And we are witnessing that, no doubt. But I say this also, my dear friends, courage is also contagious.
Courage is also contagious. All right, so Van, tell me, you were on CNN, Abby Phillips show. I've been on there before, and you even said folks are not going to like this. So you probably had a sense,
Yeah.
and you said that you didn't like her saying "I told you so" because you feel like people are hurting. Tell me what you meant by that.
So what I meant was that I think the most important thing for the Democrats to do, particularly the Democrats, I'm not talking about conversations that people are having on the left, leftists, or just left or liberal thought. The Democrats need to craft a vision of America as a place of freedom and opportunity under their rule and their power. And there were actually two different clips. One was of President Obama, and he was talking about how he would be treated if he were
Yeah,
doing some of the things that President Trump is doing. He's right. Another thing that came out, there was a soundbite that we got during the show that was asked to respond to, and it was with Kamala Harris saying, I don't want to say that I told you so. And what I think personally, um, Democrats aren't really doing is giving a vision and a version of America uh, that exists with them in power. There's nothing sticky enough vision wise for people to go, it makes sense for me to proudly advocate as a part of this political caucus. And what it's been about, in my opinion, is how bad things are going to be under Donald Trump, which we see that going the way that she said it was going to go, um, how much worse things could get. And I don't think in this particular political landscape that that works. Matter of fact, we know it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work because it lost. It doesn't work because there's too much counter messaging. There's too much messaging that is about Democrats being the fun police and not you not being able to say what you want to say about the liberal and the left having too wide of a coalition. There are too many very simple things that people can glom onto to say, hey, these people kind of seem like the ones that are coming along and always finger wagging at us. And when I think of the Democrats or the left, I think about an inclusive party. I think about a party of working people. I think about a party of paid family leave that allows you to, spend more time with your kids when, after maternity and paternity. I think about the party of grandmother's insulin. I think about the party of civil rights and voting rights. I think about all of those things, but nobody else does. And whenever we get people, it seems that when we get people that are really powerful in the party, they're either scolding you or they're folding. Either you're getting Chuck Schumer and the capitulation that you see in the Senate, or you're getting people saying, hey, uh, things are going to be terrible. I told you so. This is why you should have gone with me. So a lot of the things that have been talked about me policing Black women, or about me having something to say about Vice President Harris. I take all of that. I take all of that like how it comes. There's going to be a cultural penalty that you are going to incur from criticizing a beloved political figure. So all of that's fine. But the central core message for me is not what are the Democrats warning America about. Warning America is okay, not what they're warning America about. The question to me is, what are they building in America? Like, what are they telling Americans is going to be the result of actually putting them in power? And I don't think that they've done a good job of cultivating that message. And I'm not going to stop saying it.
All right, so let me break this up in two different parts. First, Kamala Harris saying, I didn't want to say I told you so. Part of the reason why I was frustrated with your comments is because there is this ongoing, just focus on Black folks for a minute. There is this ongoing theme in this country. When Black folks speak out, or when they say some kind of version of that, and that was very tame. Kamala Harris is pretty tame, I would argue. When they say something like that, they're told, don't say that. People are hurting. When Malcolm X said, the chickens are coming home to roost, people said, don't you say that. People are hurting right now. When Shirley Chisholm calls out the misogyny in the Black community, why she wasn't getting enough Black men to support her, she was told, hush, hush. Don't you do that. When Michelle Obama said, this is the first time in 2008 that I have felt proud of my country. Silence her. He's going to lose the election because of his wife. Because people are hurting right now. We're in a recession. How dare she say that? When President Barack Obama is at a campaign stop with Black people, young Black folks in Pennsylvania, and says, hey, I've heard there's some issue with some brothers not wanting to support Kamala Harris. People say, oh, he's finger wagging. He's lecturing. And Kamala Harris says this. And the language that I've heard is that she don't go hard enough. She wouldn't even say America's a racist country. You know what I mean? Like, she just won't go hard enough. And I just felt like, well, goddamn, she just can't win. I thought that was I wanted her to go harder, Van. I wanted her to go on the I Told You So tour. I wanted her to, yes, tell them. Because how long are we going to live in this American fiction? Call it out. Now, Bernie Sanders does it. Other folks do it. So there's that I feel like when Black folks call out what America is, whether they are Malcolm X or Barack Obama or Michelle Obama or Shirley Chisholm, we're told, hush now. Hush now. So there's that. And to your point, I hear what you're saying about what Democrats are crafting. But I think we're in a really that's what Kamala Harris tried to do. You know, she wasn't being catty. She wasn't going below the belt. She was focusing on policy, on an opportunity agenda. This man said he had concepts of a plan. So for me, I think that Democrats, they have to figure out how to combat hate, how to combat Southern Strategy 2.0 messaging.
Mm.
Once upon a time, it was white folks falling for the welfare queen narrative, for the Willie Horton ad. Now it's the trans people, the immigrants, the woke, the DEI. Democrats, whether it was Jimmy Carter or Walter Mondale or Michael Dukakis, they haven't been able to combat that otherism. That sells, that wins
Yeah.
elections. And I would say at this point, where I'm at, Van, right now, go hard. And the response that I've gotten from my audience, and I was hearing this during the election, like, why isn't Kamala Harris going harder? Fight harder. Go in there. I mean, she dragged him
Right.
on the debate. So I feel I hear you as far as crafting something, but my fear is they want to go back to the 1990s Democrats. And when black folks, especially who have power, look how they're treating Jasmine Crockett. They're always telling her to shut up. Build your base, make the choir sing. And that was one of the moments where I said, good for her. And I
Mm.
don't think that I think that this going soft, Democrats got to take a risk and go
Right.
hard. So that's
Gotcha.
that's where I am, especially for black. They even did it to black folks during Reconstruction. Shut up now.
Mm.
People are hurting right now. So that's what it kind of I felt differently.
Let me ask you a question. When just go back to some of the historical examples that you use. When Malcolm X said what he said about JFK, who was his biggest critic?
The Nation of Islam, his own people.
Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Which
the
I
reason
disagree
why
with.
Elijah Muhammad uh, silenced Malcolm X for um, whatever the amount of time that he silenced him after he said that was because strategically, Elijah Muhammad didn't think that that was smart to say. What he said to Malcolm, and there were other things at play going on behind the scenes of the nation, but what he said to him
Hmm.
was that you just made things hard for all Muslims. Like you have said something at a time when things are incredibly sensitive, and maybe there was some feeling that you put yourself and your it's far be it from me to criticize Malcolm X. I'm just talking about the way history bore it out. Put yourself and what it is that you felt like you had to say above the safety and the existence of the average everyday Muslim going to a Nation of Islam mosque. Because in leadership, there is both the duty to speak truth to power and the duty to bring peace to people. And the question that you litigate is how do you do that? Like, what are exactly the ingredients to be able to do both? It's interesting that you bring up the America isn't a racist country thing because you don't have to go hard in order to say that. You
Yeah.
just have to say yes, right? Now, let me ask you a question. When she said that, did you criticize her for saying that, for not agreeing that America is a racist country? Did you say that Kamala Harris should have said that America is a racist country?
No, I that quote was taken out of context for me because they played that 4 or 5 seconds. And also, I always remind people that was a setup from South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He began saying that. Then everybody was asking every black Democrat, is America a racist country? Let's get you. So when she said, no, I don't think America's a racist country. There's racism here. I forget the exact quote. And here's
So
how
that
we have to
America has to
fix
contend
this.
with its racist history. Yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't have an issue with her saying, her not saying that it's a racist country because I believe that she actually felt that. But she obviously knows there is racism, and I knew it was bait from the right. So I didn't have an issue with her saying that. Now, if she would have said, hell yeah, it is, I would have been cool with that too. But I didn't. There were folks who were criticizing her, so that would have been more extreme than saying "I told you so." But
So,
more. Go ahead.
and this is the point. This is the reason why I asked that. It's interesting that you brought that up because that to me indicates some sort of political capture. And let me tell you what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
Or ideological capture or almost religious capture. And I'll tell you. So what I'm getting from so many people is what she said was true, right? So why would you criticize her in saying something that's true? When that happened, what I got from a lot of people is, well, she has to lie. Because if
Yeah,
she
some
tells
folks
the
said that.
truth if she tells the truth in that situation, it's too much of a political liability.
Some folks said that. Yeah.
So in the situation to where she can't speak truth to power about the most central issue to the history of Black Americans in this country, which is whether or not we face a structurally racist system. So she can't speak truth to power in that situation. But in this situation, her speaking truth to power is what should insulate her from any criticism about whether her words are strategically um, appropriate in the time that we need to be in. All right. So to me, when I look at those two sets of facts, what I start to see is it's not any of that stuff. What we're actually dealing with, to me, seems like something that's not that much different than political cults I've seen elsewhere. Because what it seems like what we're saying is that we just should not have anything to say about politicians, particularly politicians that either we caucus with or that are Black. And let me tell you why that's important, and then I'll stop and see what you think about what I'm saying. When I was looking at Kamala Harris's words, I parsed them apart from her being a Black woman. The first thing I said in my response was, let me hold space for Black
Right.
women in leadership. Let me
Mm-hmm.
hold space for them. Let before I say anything about Kamala Harris, let me not say it and pretend like the context of her being a Black woman in leadership isn't important, because it is important. So the first thing I said was, um, we need to prioritize Black women in leadership. We need to listen to Black women. We need to make sure that Black
You
women in
did.
leadership positions are valued and are exalted. Because I truly believe that. I think that, to be honest with you, if I mean, they might say this is pandering, they're not gonna like this. Some of them not gonna like this. I think if the roles of women aren't uh, uh, prioritized in world civilization right now, we don't have that much time left, particularly in finance and other things like that. It's where I feel like there have been too many roadblocks for women to get in, and women really need voices there. That to the side. Um, and I held space for that. And then what I was doing was criticizing Kamala Harris or criticizing those words, not even Kamala Harris, who I supported and will support for governor if she runs, as a politician and from a strategy perspective. But we didn't really have that argument. We didn't have the argument about whether or not I'm simply wrong about whether or not the Democrats should do that. You and I had it to a degree here. We've had it. The argument that we
Right.
had was a cultural argument. It was an
Mm-hmm.
argument about how could you criticize the first major Black female nominee of the Democrats? How could you say this about Kamala? How could you police Black women's words? How could you do this? And the simple answer to that question, Clay, is that's my job. Like,
Right.
it's my job to hold power accountable. It's my job to interrogate power.
Yeah.
It's my job to ask questions of power.
Yeah.
And and at the same way that I'll defend Kamala Harris as a Black woman and the attacks that came to her specifically because she is a Black woman, I will also ask questions as a Black man and as someone who wants to see particularly leftist policies gain traction. I'll ask questions of her. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
continue to ask questions of her, just as I'll ask questions of anybody else that's on the left, just as I'll ask questions of President Obama, or just as I'll ask questions of anyone else. Now, if I'm wrong, there are people that are way better at this stuff than me. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But if we get to a situation to where we can't litigate or ask questions of people that we are entrusting with so much sociocultural power, I don't understand how we're supposed to really caucus around that, or how we're supposed to get what we need from the people who are supposed to be serving us.
So let me just say this. I do not think Kamala Harris or any Democrat is above critique. I've gotten criticized for Reese and I were just dragging Democrats yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're above critique. So I definitely feel you on that. And when I felt like Kamala Harris got things wrong, I publicly critiqued her, especially some of the media plan and trying to get the crossover white woman voter. I thought it was bad strategy that continues to fail. So I completely agree with you on that, that it's not like you shouldn't be able to critique somebody because she's a black woman and a politician and all that good stuff. So I'm all for that. On the America, a racist country, or chickens coming home to roost, I don't think she was, I mean, like I said, I don't think she was lying. I don't think that, I think her full statement is what she really believes. I don't think she thinks that the America equals racist. I don't think she thinks that. I think she thinks there is racism. I mean, if you really believe, I can't get in her head, but if you really believe that, then it would be kind of silly for you to run for president of the United States, because then you would
Why?
be the leader. You would be the leader of this imperialistic country. Like, I don't think she was lying. That's all that I'm saying. I don't think that she was lying from her soul. I think she said, no, I'm not going to say it's her, because nobody else said it either. Cory Booker didn't agree with that. Most of them didn't. But it was funny. She got all the heat for it. And that was during the primaries. So now I'm not saying I agree with her, but I don't think she was lying. I think she believed there, just like with Malcolm X. I believe that he believed that. And whether it
Really?
hurt her, yeah. But whether it hurt or not, or whether it was bad strategy or not, I think that if that is your truth, you should be able to say that. I think Michelle Obama believed this was my first time being proud of this country. And so if you believe that, then I say you stand in that. And I guess what's funny for me is the idea that Kamala Harris dancing around "I told you so." That is what's bad strategy. That is what's going to hurt. That is just too much to say that right now. Outside of her being black, I think the critique, the way it's being analyzed, overanalyzed, not from you, but they found the soundbite, versus her saying, faith is contagious, but courage is also contagious. It felt more so like a healing speech, right? So I think it's a double standard sometimes on black politicians, or black folks who want to move forward, who have some kind of vision of progress. But I in no way feel like that you can't critique her. And I do believe that she doesn't think America is a racist country. I don't think she believes that from her
Yeah.
core. I mean, you've sat down with these politicians. They're very Americana. They believe in the
When the
dream of
cameras are
America.
when the
What'd you say?
cameras are on. When the
When the
cameras are on, they
cameras are,
are. And when you get them talking, a little something, I'm
well,
not
there's
gonna go
something
too deep
different.
into that entire
But I, but
like
okay, but
when
can I say this to you? Kamala Harris
sure.
is, I mean this with love. Kamala Harris is, she ain't Jasmine Crockett. She
You
ain't
know,
she ain't Cori Bush.
so
She ain't. That's
be
not her
careful now.
style. Like
Be careful.
it. No, I mean that with love. Like, that's just not her
Right.
style. Like, she's of a different generation. I didn't believe she was lying when she said that during the primaries. So, but
Mm.
I was confused when we talk about strategy, what the strategy would look like. That, at this point, Democrats could lay out the Jesus platform, and I don't know if it would resonate. I don't know if it would matter. I don't know what they have to do to fix all this, but at this point, I think it comes down to the voters. I don't know what some of these
Mm.
people. I mean, they say it's the economy, it's the economy, it's the economy, and then when Democrats clean up the economy, a Republican still gets elected. But I just feel like it's a hard dance
Mm.
for black politicians to play. They aren't above critique, but it's a hard. And I thought "I told you so" was the most milk toast thing she could say, and I hope she goes harder.
Right. So once again, when I say I don't want no one, I don't think I don't want the Democrats to not go hard.
Okay,
I want
gotcha.
them to go hard and to talk about people other than themselves. Like I want them to invest intellectual conversation into the American people. So a couple of things. Number one, just to put a pin in this, if I actually thought that any black politician thought that America wasn't a racist country, not only would I not vote for them, I would excoriate them every chance that I got. If I actually thought that they thought that, because living as a black person in America, can I curse on here?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's Sirius
yeah,
XM. Go ahead.
living
Yeah.
as a black person in America and not thinking that America is a racist country, you'd either have to be a fucking moron or a Sambo. And I'm sorry, I hate to say that. I do not like to use these terms when talking
Right,
about
right.
other black people, but for the ones of you that are talking about how great things were in Jim Crow, and for the ones
Byron
of you that's
Donalds.
showing your gums and all of that stuff, that's how it comes off sometimes. I hate to be that disrespectful. I try to lead with love and respect, even with people that I don't agree with. So if you actually thought that, if you actually really believe that America wasn't a racist country, um, like founded in, uh, formed in, incubated in racism,
Absolutely.
I,
The
I, I
business,
would
the economy.
the business, the economy, every single part of it, I would lose all faith in anything that you said ever. Now, if you can't say that, you're gonna get a little jab from me, right? Because I think that we should be able to say that. I think that we should say that, but you'll also let it go. You still got my vote, you still got all of that stuff. But I'm gonna have to jab you because you're lying to me. So I don't want to get into your head
So
like
wait,
you
I'm
said.
sorry, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. So you feel like any black politician that says, "No, I don't think America's a racist country, but we have to deal with this," and it's obviously there's racist systems. You feel like they just can't say what they really feel. You feel like,
Yeah,
okay, I can't say that. I'm not going to say that. Just give me some grace. Kind of like when Barack Obama said, "I don't support gay marriage." We all know he did, but he couldn't say that.
right.
So so
Yeah.
so
It's
you
electoral
feel like
strategy. Yeah.
right. So you feel
Right. And
like
to be honest
Kamala
with you,
Harris
just like the
does.
I think I mean, I don't want to get into her head, but once again, just like the same reason why a lot of times politicians on the left, liberal politicians, Democratic politicians, aren't able to run on issues that specifically address issues in the black community. That's bad electoral strategy. They can't do it because a lot of the working class whites in some of the other swing districts and stuff like that, that turns them off. Like there are, look, concessions made all the time, like when you vote for the Democrats and you're black. And a lot of the people that are a little bit further along, to, they say that you a coon for doing it, right? So I
Mhm.
get the political reality of not being able to say, hey, we're doing this specifically to address this for black people, or America is a racist country. But I'm saying just because that remains a political reality for people in power doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a conversation about how honest and forthright we want to be about these things. And back to the entire globule of it, if we, particularly for people who said that they thought that she just couldn't speak the truth right there, if we can't really talk about what it is that forget about Kamala Harris, a politician that we like, a black politician that we like, a politician that we like, period. We can't talk about what they're saying when they're not telling the truth. And we can't talk about what they're saying because they're telling the truth. It then seems like a dynamic where the only thing that we can do is go along with the program, and it depowers us as people. And it's really not my job
But
to
but but wait,
it's not
Van.
my job to serve power. It's my job to serve people.
Absolutely, and I feel the same way. But when she said, "I told you so," was that the truth?
Yeah.
Well, then what's the issue?
The
If
issue,
you're saying they have to, she has to, they got to be truthful, no matter what. Because if she would have said America's a racist country, first of all, I mean, if maybe I'm wrong, maybe she does feel that way. She would not have been selected the VP. Probably would have ruined her political career, even as senator. So if that's your argument, then the argument would be, yo, keep on saying I told you so. Like finally, you've got it.
no, 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 no. This goes back to the point I was making about Malcolm X. There um, are many things I like. I criticized her about the America's a racist country thing, but I actually gave her a pass. I'm like, well, I mean, Reese actually came on the podcast.
Yeah,
I
Reese
said,
came on the. I saw it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I said, well, I do get that she can't say that, right? I thought that there was a way to recontextualize that question that maybe it would have been a little bit better, but whatever. But the
She could
reality
have answered
is,
it better.
truth or untruth, there's still, when you are running a political campaign or part of a political movement, there's strategy that goes into it. And it's not whether or not it's true or not to me. It's about, to me, what I feel like the Democrats should be talking about. Well, you said something a second ago. I'll be brief. You said something a second ago. You said the Democrats could come across with the Jesus platform
They would
and it
still
wouldn't
lose.
matter. Right? They would still
Right.
lose. My thing is this: we don't know that because they haven't done it. So to me, like if
But
when you
Kamala Harris had a pretty good platform. It was pretty fucking
she had
good.
a platform to me that honestly, and Kamala Harris was by far the
Yes.
best candidate for president, like
Yeah.
by far. There's a reason why I voted
Absolutely. Yeah.
for and supported her. By
Yeah.
far the best candidate for president. I don't think that the platform, and look, there are a lot of reasons why. I don't think the forget about her particular platform. I think the Democratic Party as a group platform. I don't want to come down specifically on her
Right.
because she was getting the campaign going in a short amount of time and all of that stuff. She only had like 4 months to run for president. But I'm talking about the vision for America from the Democrats seems to be more about combating what's going on the right than giving people to vote for something on the left. And until they are able to coherently do that, until they're actually able to do that and stay on message and speak to that, we
But they
won't know whether or
gave
not it'll
people.
work.
But Van, I disagree, brother. They gave people. She had an opportunity agenda for black men. She said we will raise the minimum wage, expanding health care so elderly people can be in peace in their final days at home. I mean, the protection they wanted to give to public education. I mean, they literally were laying out things, giving elderly folks dental care. I mean, they were laying out things. Honestly, to be honest with you, and this may not be a lot, it probably was the most progressive platform in our
Mhm.
lifetime from a presidential candidate in a general election, not in a primary.
Right.
I mean,
So,
I but let me ask you one more question, Van, before you go.
mhm.
You aren't a politician at all. You aren't a politician. You're out there talking for the people. And I love the way that you communicate. You all check out the Higher Learning podcast with Rachel Lindsay. She's incredible. She was on CNN last night. Um, you said that Kamala Harris should have had a better way to, I guess, answer that question on The View or the way she may have handled questions. In retrospect, do you wish you would have answered, you would have commented on that "I told you so" a speech on CNN last week differently? Do you feel like, "Oh, I wish I would have said it a little bit different," or do you feel like, "No, I said what I said. That's how I feel"?
This right here is important for me. It's also important for us. So no, I don't. I wouldn't change anything. Um, it discourse within the community is incredibly important. It's
Yes, it is.
incredibly important for people to understand that within the tent, I love y'all even when y'all don't love me. I don't love y'all because y'all agree with me. I love y'all because I love y'all. So it doesn't even matter whether or not you agree with me all the time or not. Discourse is very important within the tent. It's very important to be able to have this. You and I have a relationship that we didn't have before.
Yep.
Now, because of this, we can spend all the time agreeing that we want. When we disagree, that to me is the measure of how much we actually care about one another. Because it's easy
Right.
to high five and pat each other on the back and do all of that stuff when we're agreeing. But the way that we treat each other when we actually disagree, to me, is more important. So no, I wouldn't change anything. Um, Once again, I don't take any of it personally. I know that people are upset, and I know that people are scared.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah. Real
anything,
talk.
I know that people are
Yeah.
scared. They were told over and over and over again that a fascist was coming into office, and a fascist is now in office, and they're scared. So there's going to be a hypersensitivity and a hypervigilance to that. Um, I take that into consideration before I speak, but I still got to do the thing.